Abuse of power is a reality in South Africa. Recently we've heard opposition parties arguing that the state president was abusing his power during the State of the Nation address, and over the past weekend we've seen two more examples of abuse of power. The one was with the arrest of Paul O'Sullivan, the well-known forensic investigator, and the other was with the arrest of Sarah-Jane Trent, who is a legal consultant for Paul O'Sullivan and Associates. Today with us in the studio are Paul O'Sullivan and Sarah-Jane Trent. So Paul and Sarah, thank you very much for being here. Both of you were arrested recently in different cases, you on Monday and Sarah on Friday. So maybe you can start with your case. During the afternoon, you were arrested actually just outside AfriForum's office.
We came here for a meeting. In fact, the purpose of the meeting was to discuss what we would be doing today. And today our intention was that Sarah-Jane would have to go to court, and that I decided that I'm going to be there supporting her in court. And if they want to arrest me, let them do it. But they'll do it in front of the media. And they obviously decided, they probably didn't know my strategy, but they obviously decided to beat me to it by arresting me before I could attend court, which is rather strange, really, because the purpose of an arrest, if you look at the Criminal Procedures Act, is to secure the attendance of an accused person in court. And if they'd have waited till this morning, they would have had me in court anyway. But they decided to breach an existing High Court order, which I obtained last year. And I obtained that order as a result of continuous human rights abuses aimed at myself. And in order to secure my constitutional rights, I obtained an order last year that stated they must give notice before they can arrest me. And the reason we did that was because we knew that they were planning to arrest me at the drop of a hat whenever they felt like it. The total abuse of power. So we obtained that order, and one would have thought you had a bit of protection with an order like that. Well, seemingly not, because when I was arrested, the order was read out by AfriForum's lawyers to the team of people arresting me, and they said, no, that order doesn't apply to us. And they found out last night that in fact it does apply to them.
So there was, I think you said there were 8 vehicles and 17 officers who were there who arrested you. Yes. And the order, was that with regard to your incident last year as well, when you were, I think you were taken off an airplane. Was that after that?
They dragged me off an airplane in front of my 2 small children. In fact, they dragged my 2 children crying off the plane as well, 7 and 8 years old, 2 little girls. And when one of these cops was, a little bit arrogant to me, I told him, your time is coming. I'll send you to jail. Yeah. And then he kicked me. And my daughter started screaming. She said, don't you kick my daddy, he'll arrest you. So it was quite funny. Well, it wasn't that funny because my children were traumatized by that. Yeah. And it was a severe abuse of my human rights. So we decided to take action about it, especially when we found that they've been spending the best part of last year wasting millions of rand of taxpayer funds to put fake trumped up charges together against me. And we just reached a point where we thought, hey, this nonsense has to stop. So we trotted off to the High Court and we obtained an order. And I would have thought that order was enough protection, but it seems it's not.
And you believe that this is because you've been involved with investigating government corruption the last few years?
There's no doubt about it. Because one has to look at what they say in court, these so-called witnesses, these police officers. And they made it clear in a court last year that they arrested me because I sent an email on the 15th of March, which I copied to the Deputy President, where I named and shamed the people which I believed were corrupt and were bringing this country to its knees. And included in those names, for example, I used the expression the Zuptas, which is an EFF term, but everybody's got used to using it now. And I said these people need to be brought to justice and they need to be arrested and charged. And that was before the release of the Public Protector's report that found them guilty of manipulating government and deciding how do these people, who are not even citizens of our country, make decisions in private rooms in Saxonwold about who is going to be the finance minister, who is going to be the mining minister, who is going to be the Minister of Public Enterprises. And they instruct the president, by the way, it will be this person. But before they appoint them, they have a meeting with them and make sure they're up to the task. And I don't mean up to the task of doing the job, but up to the task of accepting bribes and manipulating the systems to benefit this Gupta family.
Well, Sarah, so you were arrested, I think, 4:20 on Friday, which might be incidental, but the implications there is that you would have to spend the weekend in prison. So what happened? How were you arrested? What happened to you?
Okay, so the warrant of arrest was issued on the 8th, on Wednesday. So they waited till 4:20 on Friday afternoon for the sole purpose of keeping me over the weekend. They took me to a petrol station on Marlborough Drive and kept me there for an hour and a half. I was tied and I was left in the back of a bakkie next to the road. And there were about 7 police officers with R5 rifles sitting on the step outside. So every time a car drove past, I was alone in the car. And it was terrifying, especially after what happened to Paul in last year. Also the death threats and everything, it was terrifying. And then they realized that they had let me leave my phone in my car at the office. So, you know, the arresting officer then comes, now they've got to try and approach me to convince me to give my phone to them. So he opens the door to the bakkie and he puts his foot up on the seat and he ties his shoelace and he says, "You're giving us your phone." And I said, "Well, I don't have it." And one of the Hawks women, she helped me put my phone in the boot of my car, and they then drove me back to the office, and I had to give it. And then they took me back to the petrol station and downloaded my phone in the boot of a car. And then when we got to the police station, after begging this whole time that I needed my lawyer, I wanted to. They didn't let me see the arrest warrant because I wanted to see where they were allowed to get my phone even after they'd arrested me, and it was now on the property that we'd left. We got to the police station, and one of the officers on duty said, "Is this Trent? Her lawyer's been looking for her." Because the arresting officer told me to tell them that they were taking me to the Cullinan police station, but they took me to Camillesdrift. And on our way there, I heard them saying Camillesdrift police station, and I was panicking because now no one knows where I am. And then the arresting officer said, "No, it's not her." And I said, it is me, call him. And he said, "No, we're doing the paperwork first, we'll call him later."
So they said that it's not you.
Yeah, they denied it. And they also told and this is, you know, I was told this by some of the police officers that were from Camillesdrift police station, who said that they were given instruction that no one is allowed to see me, and that if anyone asked if I was there, they were to deny it. A friend of mine who's based in Cullinan actually came to the police station and asked if I was there, and they said no. And he said, "Well, she's either here or she's been abducted or gone missing in police custody," and only then did they let him see me. And he could then confirm to my family and friends that I was in fact there and I was safe, and a friend of mine had to go there and say that to the police officials. I mean, my parents sat in Cape Town for 5 hours not knowing where their daughter was.
Because that's the point also. Willie Spies, who represented you, initially he was told by the police that you weren't arrested at all.
Yes.
And then there were all these different stories about where you actually were. So obviously if it's not arrest, then it's an abduction.
Yeah, and I stand by it. It was an abduction.
Yes.
It was, absolutely 100%.
But why do you think... Why did they do it that way? Why didn't they just go through the normal ways of arresting someone?
They wouldn't have been able to. They wouldn't have been able to then try to intimidate me and scare me. When you feel like your life is in danger in the custody of police officers, that's a problem. That's a big problem.
And the charges were I think one of fraud and the other one was impersonating a police
Yes,
officer.
well, they said pretending to be an IPID officer. So it's actually the correct term is impersonating.
Yeah, oh, I
But
see.
how they told me it was pretending.
So what does that mean? How did they justify it?
That's all they told me. They didn't give me my copy of when you booked in. You've got to sign that you know your constitutional rights and everything, and I had to sign it. They also tried to back time that, so it was at 7:15 in the evening when I was now at the police station, and one of the officers had written 6 o'clock in the evening. So I said, no, scratch it out, and I made them initial, and I said, you're not going to come and tell South Africa that you hadn't been driving me around and not telling anyone. Yes. So, it was traumatizing experience.
I think that's quite important because that shows the intention, the unlawful intention, that they abduct her for 3 hours, they book her into the police station, and they backdate the time that they booked her in at. That would amount to the offence of fraud. And if the fraud is being committed for the purpose of concealing an offence, which in this case it is, then it amounts to another offence, and that's defeating the ends of justice. And we are opening a docket against the people that were involved in this, and we will be alleging that they abducted her, that they defeated the ends of justice, and they committed fraud. And furthermore, we're going to allege racketeering, which carries a life sentence. And the reason we're going to allege racketeering is because they are doing all of this to suppress the investigations that we've been busy with. And we think that is the most serious issue of all. They are taking taxpayer funds. I would imagine up to this point they've probably wasted millions of rand of taxpayer funds in their little exercises. You've got teams of people coming from the Northwest Province, where there seems to be a go-to general there, the same general that arrested Harry Nell, the same general that arrested General Boyson in KZN. And this guy seems to be a go-to guy. He's the sort of guy that's prepared to do anything. Forget his oath of office to uphold the law. He's prepared to break the law to protect criminals. So he now is going to become the subject of our investigations. If he thinks that he's going to act with impunity, he's very much mistaken. And if he thinks he can abduct a young lady, a professional attorney like her, and drive her around and put the fear of God into her, he is going to wake up and smell the coffee.
Well, on that note, thank you very much. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Sarah, for coming in, and best of luck to you with your taking this further.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.